Howdy, folks. I'm Greedy Geranium, gently gathering gluttonous gerbils.
I'm Amber.
And here are more gluttonous gerbils for us, Geranium, to gather. Let's get started. Alright, folks, our first letter is titled, Will I Be a Jerk If I Expose the Local Church? My buddy donated an extremely nice living room set to a local church for a very specific purpose, according to him. Because parents didn't have anywhere nice to sit and wait for their kids while they were waiting for them to get out of classes, sports, events, etc. He told them that this is why he donated it. That's not what the church ended up doing with the furniture. In fact, they didn't use it for anything. They didn't even donate it to a family in need, as one might expect. Instead, it went to one of the church's officials' daughter's house. She is very much not a family in need, as she just installed an entire new addition for her house, as well as a swimming pool. My buddy was just as surprised and angry as I was when I told him where his furniture ended up. He is trying to be passive, but I know this family, the church's family, very personally. And I'm certain it is not the first or last time this has happened. It's just the first time that somebody has noticed. Would I be the jerk if I exposed the church? Alright, folks, what do you think? Jerk or not the jerk?
Not the jerk. This seems really shady and probably illegal. Like, as someone who volunteers for a nonprofit, they have to be very careful about what they do with donations. If a donation is given for a designated purpose, the organization either has to use it for that purpose or just reject the gift outright.
Yeah, that's the problem with getting gifts in kind, is that they have to be used for very specific purposes. So this isn't like a gift. You're not giving a personal gift to somebody. Like if Amber were to give me a kitchen table and I were to decide to give it to somebody who needed it, like she can't do anything about it. She can't hold me accountable because it's a gift, right? This, though, with a charitable organization, they have a strict set of rules that they have to follow, and otherwise it could be fraud.
And it's precisely for reasons like this so that nonprofits can't use donations to essentially enhance the lives of the founders
Yeah,
and
yeah.
leaders.
So the real question I have here is OP needs to have the full story of whether or not this was actually bought by the daughter. And if she didn't buy it, for instance, if the church put this out for sale because some organizations can say, well, we'll take your donation, they're allowed to specify, we can try to use it as best as we can possible, but we may end up selling this or doing something else with it. And as long as they were upfront with that possibility to the individual who donated it and they still gave it to them, then they would be able to sell it to somebody for a fair market value and use the money that they gained as a donation. So there is that possibility that they did something like that, but I don't know if that's the case because it doesn't sound like OP thinks that's the case.
No, and also it doesn't sound like they made any indication when they took the table that that was what they would intend to do with it.
Yeah. So I think that the friend has every right to be upset about this, and I think that there are a couple things that the friend can do. One, the friend can find an attorney who specializes in charities and find out if what they've done does run against the law. And two, they can contact their state's attorney general, write a letter of complaint saying that the church has misappropriated donations, and then they can be brought under investigation to find out if that actually happened. And then that, I mean, it's going to cause some trouble for the church, but that's if they are misusing donations, then they deserve to have the trouble brought upon them.
And I mean, it doesn't sound like the friend is that invested, so I think just blasting them on social media or something like that too is totally fine.
Well, certainly, but how many, if this is a habit and they're
Mhm.
certainly doing this to other people, and these are, if they're doing some very shady things, then they deserve to be held accountable. And I don't think that a friend understands how important it is to hold them accountable for doing something that's actually very much wrong.
Well, I certainly think that they need to be held accountable, but I also understand the position of, like, I don't know how powerful the church is in the community, but it might make things really difficult. Like, if this church community is
Hmm.
really central to the town or something like that, to then be ostracized by the community could have severe personal repercussions. So I would say operate under what feels safe to you to do.
Yeah, but usually letters like that would be anonymous, and you
Okay.
can report them without putting your name on certain things. Like there are anonymous reports, I believe, and that's why I would say that OP's friend should look into a legal counsel that specializes in charities and reporting them, because there are fraud, waste, and abuse organizations that you can report stuff to. So I don't know the details of that. I wish I knew more about it, but I've never had to report a charitable organization for misdeeds. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. Alright folks, and our next letter is titled, Am I a jerk for calling my daughter's father Spineless and his girlfriend creepy over their name choice for their daughter? Yes, folks, it's this kind of story again. A little bit of context for all of you. I ended up falling pregnant with my 10-year-old daughter during a drunken hookup with a friend in my mid-20s. Not the most glamorous or flattering truth, but it's the truth nonetheless. We found out and decided to keep the child and co-parent while remaining friends. We were never a couple, and we don't want to be either. 4 years ago, he began to date his long-term girlfriend, and they moved in together last year. She fell pregnant, and I've been supportive of both of them as much as I could be without crossing any lines. I've encouraged my daughter to help out whenever she's staying with them during the pregnancy and to behave. I've also made it clear that I want the children to have a close relationship despite having different mothers. I've even told them that if they were comfortable, then with nights that I have my daughter, I would be willing to take their daughter as well so that they could spend some time together being siblings. All in all, I thought that everything was great, and I was excited for my daughter to have a sibling as she's always wanted one, but I have no interest in having another child. 3 days ago, my friend and his girlfriend had a daughter, and they asked me to bring my daughter to the hospital to meet their little sister yesterday alongside the others of their family. So I did exactly that. But when they introduced us to the baby, I was shocked. The name that they had used was my daughter's name. She didn't seem to have any issue with it when she was introduced to the baby, bold as brass. My friends seemed uncomfortable and wouldn't look at me directly, as I asked them what they were playing at which point my friend's father said that he would take the daughter down to the cafeteria to get something to eat and left with her. My friend told me to calm down and not to overreact, while his girlfriend told me that she didn't see an issue and it was a pretty name. I asked them if they'd named the baby for my daughter, trying to understand the logic here, but his girlfriend said that no, it was just a pretty name that she liked. I then asked if they had planned to use a nickname or a middle name when addressing her on a daily basis, and the response was that they didn't see a need for that. I told them that they were being ridiculous and that they couldn't do this. I then told the girlfriend that I found this frankly creepy, and I told my friend that he was being spineless if he was happy to go along with this. He tried to claim that our daughter could use a nickname or something, but I shut that down immediately, asking why it was more reasonable for a girl who has used that name for a decade, and compared to a baby who has no concept of what a name was yet. His girlfriend told me that I was being a bee, talking to her like that after just gave birth, and asked the nurses to remove me, saying that I was disruptive. Maybe my temper was running a little too hot though, and I was too harsh on when she had just given birth. It's just really weird. Edit. I would like to state that I know that what they want to name their child is their choice. They could have called her a dinosaur for all I care. This is one name that should just be off limits or adjusted. They even have the same surname as they have the same father. Something about it just felt malicious and deliberate, as if she's trying to replace my daughter, and for them both to spring this on us like that at the first meeting? No, that was weird. Alright, folks, what do you think? Jerk or not the jerk?
Not the jerk. This is weird, and I do think that she's probably trying to replace your daughter. I can't think of any good reason why she would give her child the same name as her boyfriend's existing child.
Yeah, I think this one is really weird. I think that I think that you were perfectly justified to be upset and bring it to the attention, because when they're this young, there's still an opportunity to change the name, right? And I think that it is very peculiar that they're claiming, oh, it's a pretty name. Well, there are a lot of pretty names out there, though. Like, you don't have to pick out the one particular pretty name that's in use in your household.
Yep.
It's going to make things confusing. How are you going to tell the difference between your children other than, if you have to call both of them, right?
I think it's clear they're going to force the 10-year-old who already has had this name for years to take a nickname.
Yeah. So it really does feel like a subtle jab at the 10-year-old and a kind of a way to replace her, to show her, like, look, you've been replaced, figuratively and literally.
Yeah, to drive a wedge between her and her father to a point where he eventually just doesn't want to see her at all.
Yeah, because there's only one course that will happen here. I mean, it's going to cause conflict. It's going to cause strife because nobody wants to have their name appropriated.
I mean, I've read the comments and like the little girl is upset and doesn't understand why her dad would do this and basically replace her with the new baby. And it feels like it's a deliberate thing to replace her.
Yeah, exactly. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. And Fernan Cornwall says, you're the jerk. There are no names that are off limits, and it's none of your business if they want to name their child the same name as your daughter. Full stop. No exceptions. You might find it creepy or weird. Here's a little trick us adults do at preventing us from getting kicked out of hospitals. Keep your opinion to yourself. I think that this is a bad take.
A very bad take.
I think that this person doesn't understand that, while yes, they are allowed to name their daughter whatever they want, and maybe I think OP voiced their complaint, right? And I think that they might have gotten upset about it, but the reason why she got kicked out of the hospital was because the new mother decided that she didn't want to have this conversation. It had less to do with OP having, an anger problem, because it's not like she was throwing chairs or something like that. Like, if OP had been like, and I did something that I wasn't proud of, I started pushing people and throwing chairs, yeah, then I mean, like, that's not a good reaction. That's not an adult reaction. But voicing a complaint and saying that you shouldn't have done this is a far cry from a violent act.
Well, and some people get legality confused with morality. Like, yeah, technically you can't tell anyone not, although even legally there are some names you cannot use. But yeah, you can't legally be like, you're not allowed to use this name for your child. But you can still, it doesn't mean that it's morally or ethically right for this person to pick that name.
Yeah, exactly. And OP replies, I'll keep my opinions to myself when they don't interfere with my daughter, who is currently confused and upset as to why her father has given her name to his new baby. Could I have gone about it a nicer way? Absolutely. I accept that quite possibly I'm the jerk here, but I'm not going to sit there and smile as they use my daughter's name for her sister. Even a heads up like, hey, we've named her this, but it's going to be shortened to X or call her Y. So it wasn't sprung on us without warning. But no, they just introduced her by that name as if it was normal. That is a lot to take in all at once. And Paramonious Salad says, not to jerk. From the outside, it sure reads like she wants to replace her partner's affection for her first daughter with his new baby. Of course it's creepy. And Holdfast02 says, and the suggestion that the 10-year-old should use a nickname? Wow, talk about the audacity. And DD May says, not the jerk, they hid this for a reason. He was embarrassed for a reason. The same first and last name is going to cause both of these little girls to get a lifetime of issues, especially with the same father. I usually would have a bit more sympathy for a woman who just gave birth, but she seemed to deliberately be cold and cruel towards your daughter, her stepdaughter, to have done this. Alright folks, and our last letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Leaving My Own Wedding Because My Husband Embarrassed Me? I'm a 27-year-old female, and my husband, a 29-year-old male, have been together for 3 years. In those 3 years, I have never known him to be selfish, occasionally immature, yes, but even that was rare. These problems arose when those stupid cake smashing videos got popular and my husband thought that they were hilarious. I've never thought that they were funny, and he knows that. Yet, he was always showing me the video of these poor wives getting the happiest day of their lives ruined by the jerk partner for some cheap laughs. He also knows that I have a history with cake smashing. My family does the cake smashing thing. I remember it was my 17th birthday and I pleaded with my mom to not do it. She promised and I trusted her. I had my hair and makeup done, all nice, and right as I blew out the candles, my mom pushed my head into the cake and one of those decorations on the cake ended up slicing my forehead. Not enough to go to the hospital, but enough for some substantial bleeding. My birthday was ruined, and after, I wouldn't come out of my room. My mom still calls me a brat for that. I told him that if he ever did something like that to me, I would leave him. He started laughing, but I was being for real. Though he really was not taking me seriously. Now skip to a few days ago when my wedding happened. Everything was perfect. I was happy. He was happy. I was excited for our new lives as newlyweds. I felt like a princess in my poofy white dress and my hair done up perfect with perfect makeup. All very expensive things I would like to mention. We get to the cake cutting part, and as I turn to him, he scoops up a huge chunk of our wedding cake and smashes it all over my face. Everything just seemed to go in slow motion for a few moments. He's just laughing at me, and then says, "You should see your face," and continues to laugh. Other people in the crowd, mostly my family, are also laughing at me. Then I just start walking away. He realizes that I'm leaving and tries to catch up with me and says that I'm being extra. I push him away and order an Uber. As I got outside, most of the crowd is following me and telling me to come back. I get into the Uber and I drive away. I drove to our apartment and I packed most of my things and I went to stay at a hotel. I'm currently, though, staying at a friend's house. My family and his family have been blowing up my phone for days, saying that I'm being childish and my husband is a good man and it was just a joke. My husband has been calling me off the hook, telling me to please come home and that he wants to talk and that he's sorry and didn't think that I would get emotional. This was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, and he embarrassed me in front of everyone for some prank that he knew I hated. Not only that, he ruined a $500 cake. He ruined my makeup, my hair, and the top of my dress. The cake got all over it. Though I still do love him, and I'm wondering if I was really hard on him. That seems to be everyone else's opinion. So am I the jerk? All right, folks, what do you think? Jerk or not the jerk?
Not the jerk. Your partner needs to listen to you and respect you, even if it's not something that they understand. Like, he knew you had trauma around this particular thing. You made your wishes explicitly clear. You said, "I do not want this." And he still went ahead and violated that boundary anyway.
Yeah. He violated a boundary. This is plain and simple. It doesn't matter what the boundary is. This is your own personal body preference. You said, "I do not want this to happen to me. I do not want this to happen to my body." And instead of respecting you and your wishes and this boundary, he violated it. He walked all over it because of some silly joke, right? And it's not a joke if everyone's not laughing.
Right. I mean, it's legitimately something Opie has trauma around. Like, and to be like, "Oh, haha, I'm going to re-traumatize my partner," that's not cool. I think you're probably better off without this person if he has so little regard that he's willing to do something that he knows is going to hurt you for laughs.
Yeah, well, and I know that OP is like, "Oh, he ruined a $500 cake and he ruined my makeup and my dress," right? But he didn't just ruin that. He ruined a lot more here, and he ruined the whole wedding.
Right. Well, and he ruined not only that, but also any memories Opie has of the event are now overshadowed by this new trauma. And now also the distrust, like Opie thought she could trust this man, expected him not to do this one simple thing not to do. And he did that. Like, I would have been so upset if Brian had shoved cake into my face. But you know what? Brian knew I didn't want cake shoved in my face, so he didn't do it.
Amber told me specifically not to shove cake in her face, and so what do? I shove cake into her face.
No, you didn't. Well, I mean, the first time I saw that, I was like a little kid, like 7 or 8 at my aunt and uncle's wedding, and I was like, I don't want cake in my face.
Yeah. I mean, I think that OP, this wasn't even just like a little, "Oh, it's on your nose" type of thing, where he like boops her nose with the cake or something like that, right? This was a full-on smash her whole face into the cake thing.
Yeah, like, it got into her hair, onto her dress. Like, it hurts me so much on OP's behalf.
Yeah, and even if he had just booped her nose,
Right.
I still think that would have been a reason enough for her to be upset.
Yes, of course.
But I think that this was just beyond, like, she's made it very, very clear from whenever they started dating, it sounds like, that she does not want cake in her face ever. And I don't know, wonder if her family put him up to this too.
Or it could just be they have similar personalities or something.
Because, like, if the family was, like, hounding him and being like, "Oh, this will be so fun, blah, blah, blah," right? "Oh, you should totally do this," then he might have been like, "Yeah, I really should do this. It'll be a great idea." It's a bad idea. I think that this relationship probably is not going to be easy to fix if it's able to be fixed at all.
And honestly, I don't know if it's worth fixing if he has that little like regard for your well-being and is willing to do something that he knows is psychologically damaging to you.
Yeah, and I just feel bad for OP here because she thought that everything was great. She thought that the relationship was going to be fine. But it turns out that this guy, in the end, really just does not listen. So let me know what you folks think, though. So anyhow, take care and good luck. And Lady Alice Magnus says, have you checked YouTube? Did he or someone else attending the wedding post the incident on social media? If so, don't have kids with him. He'll make their lives terrible, posting embarrassing clips of them. And OP replies, he apparently didn't plan this and it happened fairly quickly, so the only person who is recording it that I know of was the person I paid to do it. I've already messaged him not to give these recordings to anybody. I don't need that kind of attention. Plus, everyone was busy laughing. And DJ4116 says, not the jerk. This is a glimpse into the rest of your marriage. He completely disregarded what you specifically told him not to do. Annulment. And Master is MK says either this or OP is really bad at communicating. I don't know how you can read that whole thing and then get out of this. OP is bad at communicating.
Mm-hmm.
OP replies, I told him so many times. He just didn't want to listen, apparently. And Gwyneth Ann says, it happened to me at a birthday party. Not my birthday or cake. I was the one it just happened to end up in the face of. Not only did it hurt, but I was so shocked that I started to cry and I left. And OP replies, oh no, I'm so sorry that happened to you. Also, it hurts. Like, people think it's just a little mushy cake. Like, no, it hurts especially if there's decorations. And who would do that with decorations on a cake?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what, like, candles stick up out of the cake and everything like that, too, for birthday parties. So, what I was worried about is, like, eyes and stuff like that. It just seems like really risky to do something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And Old Ninja 113 says, it doesn't make sense if he knows your history, and you definitely don't want that happening, and you told him what would happen if he does it anyways. So wrong. I'm not sure that I would get over that very fast. I mean, you're getting back with him. I would make first sure that he suffers. Scare him and make sure that he knows never to mess with you again. I mean, I don't know if that's the best way to approach a relationship.
No,
but
I mean, I think it's just time to move on from this man and find a partner who actually respects you.
Yeah. And OP replies, I guess maybe he thought he would change my mind. That is the only reasoning I can think of, because that's the same thing that went through my mind. I don't even know if I will get back together with him. He's acting like smashing my cake in my face was funny, and I was just being emotional.
Well, and that's another issue with this, is anytime your partner dismisses your legitimate feelings as being too emotional, that's not a good or supportive partner.
Exactly. All right, folks, it is tea time. Grab your beverages of choice. I've got some tea right here. Amber's got a joke.
First monster, what lovely eyes you have. Second monster, thank you. They were a birthday present.
Wow. Talk about stealing people's eyes. And I have licorice spice. Thanks for that, Jovial Bob sign. Thanks for that. All right, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for watching. Happy Tuesday, spelled T-W-O. Amber, we need some kind of moral advice and or guidance, and please, please have it in the form of a quest for our quest room.
Quest, find the cake, but don't smash it into anyone's face.
Exactly, exactly. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Bye.